For example, my daughter bought an electric car on Monday. She had so many incentives that the price of the car came down $15,000. It's unbelievable what's available right now. And the reason it's so easy is that these things are all sourced at the dealer and the manufacturer. And so would it be possible, say at the federal level, to subsidize the solar cost of the solar panels? So right from the get-go, the solar panels themselves are much less expensive and you don't have to have a regulatory.
I'm going to jump in and interrupt you and apologize for that. But we have, I think, a number of questions out there, and I've got some questions that I wanted to ask. So I apologize.
Sure. No problem.
I wanted to move this thing along. Look, let me say to Ali, I am a great fan of the Heat Squad and all the great work they did in the Addison County, Rutland area. I think we got them $500,000 to continue their work up in the Northeast Kingdom. So they'll have some more resources. All right, it seems to me, and I think, you know, Richard was making this point, and Jeff as well, I think sometimes we complicate things too much, and we don't have time for complication. We don't have time for bureaucracy.
Yep.
We're gonna have to move very, very quickly in this crisis and break through a lot of the crap that has existed for years. Now, Richard, you talk about incentives. They're gonna be massive incentives. We're still working out the details for electric cars. We are going to extend that 7,500, which expired for a number of automobile manufacturers. That's going to be extended. Plus, if the car was made in America, probably another 2,500. If it's union made, more benefits on top of that. So you're going to see electric cars very, very competitive with internal combustion cars. You talked about EV charging stations. They have billions of dollars coming in to make sure that we can charge the cars and people can travel efficiently. I wanted to ask a question, and anybody can answer it. My impression is, and please tell me what I'm missing here and tell me if I'm wrong. I share with Richard, by the way, this concern, and I want people, maybe let's stay on that issue. With the PUC making incentives for solar less and less and eventually nothing. I'm not clear that I understand why that is so. When we are all talking about the need to aggressively move to sustainable energy, we can put solar up on our rooftops. Why is the PUC making that less attractive for people to do? Thoughts on that?
Bernie, I had lunch during a VCAN conference with a PUC member, and she told me that they felt that there had been enough incentives, that solar didn't need them anymore. I almost fell out of my chair. I don't know if that's a total reason, but that seemed to be.
That solar is now mature. Was that the word used?
Yeah.
All right, I think I don't understand that myself, and I will talk to the PUC. We're talking about saving the planet.
Yes.
And not determining, talking about an energy transition and not determining, whether solar companies can make money or not make money. So I don't understand that, and that's something I will look at. The other thing, and Ali raised this. We have brought in some money, and I hope to bring in a lot more money for weatherization of homes. So I guess when you talk, Ali, and correct me if I'm wrong, about an energy audit, you go to a home and you say you're wasting energy here, there, and the other place. And if you do A, B, and C, you can cut your energy costs by whatever, 30%, 40%. Is that what you're trying to do?
Yeah, they get a comprehensive report that says you need air sealing here, you need insulation there, you need to replace windows.
Windows, right. Okay, yeah. Now the question is that I think you implied is it's one thing to say that, it's another thing to come up with the $15,000 or $20,000 that you need to do it, right?
Exactly. They're big ticket items. It's expensive to do the work and move forward.
All right, do you have the impression, and everybody else can jump in on this, that if we worked on a system which says that we're going to cut your fuel bill by whatever it may be. Let's hypothetically say 50%. Then we're going to loan you the 15,000 or 20,000 you need to do the job, and you will pay it back by the savings that you incurred through the weatherization for X number of years, and then you're going to be able to save money. Is that an approach that you think people would respond to?
I absolutely think so. Yeah, it comes down to an economic issue for people, and that's an innovative way to go about, allowing them to have the money to do it.
So you're not going to be spending any more than you were spending, and after you pay it back, pay the loan back at a very low interest rate, you're going to be benefiting from the savings. Does that make sense to people?
Ernie, what if they paid it back in such a way that they gained a little bit right away?
I think that's right. I think that's exactly right, Richard.
Yeah, that sounds like the pay as you save model, which I think could really work. I know that there was a report that came out from the Center for Research and Public Policy that showed about the people were less interested in financing these projects, and they would rather pay out of pocket for them. So I think that's also part of the issue, especially when we're trying to reach energy burdened households. And I think personally, our experience, it would be more successful if we could say, we know the homes are old and this is old housing stock, pre-1940s. Everybody needs insulation. Everybody needs air sealing. The money should be going directly to fund those projects off the ground, maybe with an audit, without an audit. We know it needs to be done.
Okay. And you can, the beauty of this is, I think everybody has said we can create a lot of jobs.
Right.
Doing that, you save people money, you cut carbon emissions. If that's not a win-win-win situation, I'm not quite sure what is. All right, I want to also say that I am concerned. I shared Richard's, as I mentioned earlier, about disincentivizing solar. We intend to bring in, we've got a project called a revolving loan rooftop solar project, which does exactly the same thing as the weatherization program I talked about. We will lend you the money. You will pay it back at no higher cost, maybe less, than you were previously paying on your electric bill. And at the end of 10 years, you're going to be able to cut your electric cost. You'll have it all paid back, and you're going to get more or less free electricity.
Yeah.
That makes sense to people?
Yep.
All right.
Yes.
Okay. Joanna, I think some questions have been coming in. Am I right?
Oh, Senator Sanders, there are so many questions, lots of good ideas. We want to get to so many of them. And if we don't, then we're going to follow up. But Ian, take it away with the questions that came in via the Google chat first, and then some of these.
Thank you all very much. And thank you for being with us, Senator, and folks, please do keep those questions coming in. The first one that we had that came up from a lot of folks is what can Vermonters, and from our perspective, organizations like the NRC, do to help ensure that the historic reconciliation bill, the Build Back Better Act, passes? Or as Ryan from Sharon put it, Bernie, how can we help you help all of us?
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. I will be going on Friday to Indiana, Saturday to Michigan, and Sunday to Iowa to do just that. Those are in Iowa and Indiana, not Michigan. You have 4 Republican senators who have chosen not to support the package. Look, in Vermont, Senator Leahy and Congressman Welch are strongly supportive of what we're trying to do here. But if you can reach out to friends around the country where there are Republican senators and maybe more conservative Democratic senators, that would be great. As of now, we have no Republican support, and I think we have to make the case that climate change is an existential threat and that the United States government has got to lead the world. And I know that you all know what complicates what we are trying to do is this is not an American issue, it's a global issue. And China is a significantly worse emitter than we are. And we're not going to have success unless we bring China and Russia and Pakistan and India and the other heavy emitters into the process. But we can lead the world. I just talked to the Chinese ambassador a few days ago, and it's just terribly important that the major emitters of the world cooperate. All right, what else we got, Joanne? That was a good question.
Another one here, Senator, from Dan in Burlington. How do we ensure that investments take into account equity and inclusion and are true just transition investments? And following on that, Liz asks, how do we ensure that a just transition is true for working people, including provisions for good union jobs?
Good. You'll be happy, Liz will be happy to know that, throughout this proposal, and the president has been very strong about this, that we want not just jobs, but we want good paying jobs. And when possible, we want union jobs. I'm just talking, as I mentioned earlier, in Waterbury today to a guy who is involved in solar installation. He tells me that right now they don't have enough workers. They are paying starting salaries at $20 an hour plus benefits. But that point is well taken. We want these jobs to be well-paying and union jobs. And obviously, look, when you talk about having working families benefit from this, I mean, you all know this. I mean, I'm talking to the choir here. Everybody has got to be involved. What does it matter if you're rich or whether you're poor? Everybody has got to be involved in saving energy and in, I think we would agree, in producing energy. So we are working on one project, and there are many in there. This is one that I've introduced, as I mentioned, the revolving loan fund. So that would say it would help homeowners be able to get solar on their roofs, get the down payment, and pay it off over years at low interest rates. And also provide for, I think somebody mentioned, maybe, I don't know, it was Jeff or somebody, Allison or Richard, a community-based solar as well. All right, so if I'm a renter, I may not be able to put a solar panel, although how you deal with landlords and make it attractive to them to do it is another issue.
Yeah.
But this is one where everybody has got a benefit, and we got to become more efficient and produce electricity. So it's across the board.
Thank you, Senator. Tom from Burlington would like to know, how can we get the major polluters who have knowingly caused the climate crisis to help pay for the cleanup?
Yeah.
And building on that, Susan from Randolph asks that since folks who've caused the most climate damage were also some of the biggest climate deniers, how can we help them pay for the expenses of some of the climate-related tragedies that they are culpable for creating?
Tom and Susan have asked a very good question, and I share their concern. Look, I think we all know in life people make mistakes. I make mistakes, you make mistakes, and we do things that later on we learn was a mistake. But in terms of some of the major fossil fuel players, it is not a situation where they just learned yesterday, oh my God, we didn't know. Carbon emissions causes climate. I think all of you are familiar with some of the work done, I think, by ProPublica and others, revealing that getting the documents from ExxonMobil, where their scientists, some of their leading scientists decades ago, I think somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, back in the 70s.
Yeah.
Back in the 70s was saying, hey, you know what we are doing is going to warm the planet with incredible damage. That's what and ExxonMobil and other deniers put millions of dollars trying to obfuscate the issue and lie about the issue. Bottom line is, I agree with the question. I am on a bill introduced by Senator Markey, I think, of Massachusetts, which would fine them, which would demand exactly, I think we're talking about $500 billion. These guys have caused the problem. They made money by causing the problem, and they got to pay for that. I mean, this is really criminal activity in my mind. It is all the difference in the world about not knowing what you're doing. We could forgive ignorance, but when they knew what they were doing, making money off of that, that is a crime. They got to pay, in my view.
We did that with the tobacco companies.
Yeah, exactly. That is the analogy. Joanna, Ian, you have other questions?
A few more. We'll get to as many as we can here. Folks being municipal energy committees are obviously interested in how any prospective federal funding might get down to the state and town level.
Yeah.
Stephen from Barrie asks if the bill can fund grants for schools and towns and state buildings for things like solar and battery storage and EV chargers. And
Yes.
Related to that, Darren from Essex Junction wants to know, how will that funding actually be structured to make it easy for municipalities to obtain and use it?
All right. I don't know all the answers to that, and there are a number of different provisions. But we are trying, if I have anything to say about it, if there's anything in the world that I hate, is complexity and bureaucracy. We are trying to make this stuff simple. As I mentioned earlier, in terms of electric automobiles, the goal here is, and I think we are there, is for people to get their rebates at point of sale. So you don't have to get it, as a tax rebate, but you get it right there. Now, then you got to deal with the companies to make sure the companies are not ripping off people and raising prices, et cetera, et cetera. But that would be fairly simple. I think by and large, most of the programs, and I don't know that we can do it too differently, there will be money going to the states. And if the money goes to the states, and I very much want to see the town energy committees play an active role, it will, you're not going to have to travel to Washington and deal with the Washington bureaucracy. You can deal with Montpelier, which should be a lot easier. But the goal, obviously, would be to get the money. I just dealt with the state this morning. We're going to get $1 million for solar panels for schools and public buildings. And I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that money gets an easy process. People apply, get the money out, let's do it. But I think a lot of the money will be going into maybe larger cities, into the states, to give people the opportunity to get their hands on that money and get it into the communities.
Thank you, Senator. We'll try to fit a few more questions in here. Joey, feel free to chime in if and when we need to pivot on. This question from Guy from Saxon's River pertains to kind of meeting the upfront cost of many of the things that we talk about for climate solutions. His example is weatherization, but I think this could be applied to everything from solar panels to electric vehicles. When he asks, upfront costs for weatherization projects and climate projects generally are a huge impediment for folks to move forward. And how will this $3.5 trillion help?
Well, that's exactly what I was talking about. I agree with Guy, and that is the impediment. And what we have got to do, again, in a simple way, hypothetically, I remember many years ago, the low income, you're all familiar with the low income weatherization program, which in Vermont does a good job, but they are underfunded and we want to expand that. We want to expand similar type programs. But I remember going to a house in Barrie, an old house, and it had been weatherized. Two old sisters were living there, their 80s, 90s, whatever. And their fuel bill was cut in half. The home was made more comfortable. Their fuel bill was cut in half. So I think what we have got to do, because upfront for working families, lower income families, is the impediment, we got to get the money to them in either grants or low interest loans, depending on their income, and they will repay it through the savings that they are incurring through weatherization or the production of electricity. But that is exactly what I'm talking about. And that is, to me, the most important thing. People understand that they're wasting energy. They don't have the money to do the efficiency work or the weatherization work that they need. We got to get them that money, got to get that work done, and it can be paid back, or if they're lower income, there will be grants to do it.
Appreciate that, Senator. And definitely, I think the interest in equity and ensuring that the transition is in fact just and that low-income folks aren't left behind is something that folks in this network are very interested in. I think what I'll make our final question before closing remarks is, I think something that people are asking more and more as things like the IPCC report come out that really spell out just how dire the climate crisis is. And I think people would love to hear your thoughts on, can what Vermont does, this small little state, to address climate change actually make a difference?
Yes. Look, again, we're all preaching to the choir. We would not be on this webcam if we didn't understand the dire nature of the climate crisis. And, I think that not just through the work of activists and organizations, but because people are now seeing things with their own eyes. When you look at what goes on in Oregon or California or Europe or Siberia, you can't deny this terrible reality. what is very difficult, I fear, and this will be our job, is to make clear the urgency of the moment. This is not something that we have decades to do. We have got to do it and do it now. And we have got to bring, China and other countries into this process. We are in this, we are all in this together, and the world is in it together. And you ask about what Vermont can do. Well, look, the truth of the matter is, in a world which is getting smaller and smaller, in a world in which, we are communicating, via Zoom, and it's going on 1 million times a day, the innovative work that a small state does, if Vermont can show real progress in all of the areas that we've talked about, in weatherization, in transportation, in creating solar and wind and other forms of sustainable energy. And if we can show that up, trust me, people all over the world, all over the country will be saying, hey, look, Vermont did that. Let's learn something. Just as we have got to learn from the good things that other folks in America and around the world are doing. It is a small world in that sense. The goal is to steal everybody's good ideas. And in climate work, we've got to be very aggressive about that. So it would give me nothing more, and I know I speak for all of you, greater satisfaction than that our small state leads the country and becomes a model for what states can be doing. But we have got to prevail on our legislature, on the governor, on the PUC, that there is a crisis and we got to be aggressive about it. But I am at least happy to tell you that with a little bit of luck, there is some significant developments taking place in Washington. And if we can pass this damn thing, of which I am working night and day, it will give you guys the resources to start making the changes that we need.
Senator Sanders, we are with you. We are here to support you in these next several weeks, because I feel this is it. Like, this is a moment. I feel like this is our moment to seize it. So we look forward to partnering with you. There are so many more good questions and comments. We will save what is in the chat and share them with your team so that you hear the comments, you see and read those comments as you are able. And we very much appreciate your leadership, you working tirelessly. We hear you on what we can do, and we're going to partner as we can. And deep gratitude. There's a huge opportunity and certainly a moral obligation. So,
John, my thanks to you and all the great work that the town committees are doing, to all of you who are on the panel today, and everybody who's watching. All right, we're in this thing together.
Yes, we are.
Go forward. Okay. Thank you all very much.
thank you all.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you all.
Bye-bye.